During World War II, the citizens of mainland America had little reason to fear for their lives back at home. While they had to live knowing loved ones may not return home, and there were some attacks scattered across North America, for the most part, Americans at home enjoyed peace not seen in much of Europe or Asia. However, they were never entirely safe, as the threat of attack was always possible. The Imperial Japanese expressed a desire several times to inflict terror on the west coast of the United States, especially after the American raid over Tokyo. There were submarine strikes that saw little success, and even an air raid intending to cause a forest fire that too saw little success. There was also the infamous planned attack of plague bombs that would never come to fruition. However, the Japanese did manage to send bombs over to the US, reaching all the way into the Midwest. This of course was done with the Fugo balloon bombs, a weapon that was mostly a failure, but still saw tragedy in one of the war's most obscure and forgotten moments, when American citizens in Oregon were killed by a Japanese explosion. The fire balloons attached with incendiary and explosive bombs could travel extreme distances by taking advantage of the jet stream. From 1944 to 1945, over 9,000 of them were released in the Pacific to blow into North America, and there they were found scattered all across the United States, Mexico, and Canada. In the US, the balloon bombs were found in many West Coast states, but were found as far east as Michigan. At the time, this was the longest-ranged intercontinental attack in the history of warfare. However, for the Japanese, they were in the end highly disappointing. They knew few would actually make it to the mainland, and even fewer would see any impact, but the results were even more unsatisfactory. As was expected, only around 10% or 300 balloons actually landed. However, the hope for destruction in the form of forest fires, destroyed infrastructure, and even deaths was few and far between. Still, one balloon bomb did prove lethal, in a tragic moment that took the lives of 7 people, mostly children. On May 5th, 1945, Reverend Archie Mitchell and his 5 months pregnant wife, Elsie, were adjusting to their new life in Bly, Oregon. Mitchell was the new pastor at a local church, and on a fine spring day, the couple were taking 5 young kids, aged 11 through 14, from the Sunday school class on a picnic. At the park, Mitchell was unloading the car while his wife and the children wandered off exploring the forest. They soon shouted back that they had found something curious, what looked to be a balloon. Before his warning to get away could reach them, one of the children touched the balloon, detonating the bomb and killing the pregnant Elsie Mitchell and the 5 young children almost instantly in a large explosion. This unfortunate event was the only case of civilian deaths in the continental United States during the war by the Japanese, and the only casualties of the balloon bombs. No good deed goes unpunished, a sarcastic, cynical quote of unknown origin, yet one that always seems to ring true. I couldn't help but think of this saying when it comes to Archie Mitchell, a man that really seems to have only wanted to do good in his and others' communities, yet would have his life drastically and permanently altered twice by means of his nation's enemies. Mitchell would be a part of 2 tragedies, 2 intertwining stories that involve many victims each, yet only one man happened to be fated for both. After the incident with the balloon bomb, Mitchell continued his work as a missionary, as well as remarried and had 4 children. His missionary work took him to Vietnam, where he served 2 5-year terms and was preparing for a 3rd. This 3rd term saw Mitchell, his family, and others work at a leprosarium, or leper colony. Others included Dan Gerber, a young Mennonite, as well as the talented Dr. Eleanor Vietti. Even though they were warned against it, the missionaries decided to stay and help the crowded leprosarium and to aid any who needed it, no matter their allegiances. Dr. Vietti was particularly well respected, and this seemed to gain the attention of the Viet Cong. On May 30th, 1962, just over 17 years after the balloon bomb tragedy, the Mitchell family would once again be shaken up. That night, Viet Cong soldiers stormed into the facility and houses, taking a Land Rover and whatever supplies they desired. It seemed medical supplies were their main focus. They took Mitchell and Gerber and tied them up with rope, as well as took Dr. Vietti, whose injured ankle already hindered her walking. Mitchell was able to successfully convince them to leave his wife, Betty, with his children, taking only him from his family. There was no bloodshed as the 21-year-old Gerber, 44-year-old Mitchell, and 34-year-old Dr. Vietti were taken prisoner by the Viet Cong that night, leaving everyone else physically unharmed. Exactly what happened after that night, though, is unknown. While it's possible they believed the American missionaries to be spies, it's also widely believed that they wanted Dr. Vietti specifically for her ability to provide medical care in their own hospitals. There are numerous reports and supposed sightings that surfaced for many years after, into 1970. However, none can be truly verified, although many claim that the trio were still alive and providing medical care. Mitchell's wife Betty would actually be captured on another occasion in 1975, and while prisoner, she attempted to question her captives about her husband's whereabouts. However, this yielded no results. And unfortunately, that's how everything seems to be after that night, as no one knows the fate of Mitchell, Gerber, or Vietti. The trio of POWs remain missing to this day, but have been presumed dead in the decades since. Dr. Vietti remains the last American woman unaccounted for from the war, and unfortunately, it's likely to stay that way. Although hopefully, one day the truth of what happened to the 3 missionaries is revealed. Thanks for watching.